Welcome to this video on how to knit the basic legs and arms with round feet for my painted cricket animals. You'll need the same yarn that you use for the body of the animal and knitting needles that are at least 2 sizes smaller than what's recommended for the yarn that you're using. If you're knitting arms and legs that have a contrasting color of feet, then you'll need a small amount of yarn in a contrasting color for that. You'll also need a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, and some way to keep track of which row you're on. For the basic legs with round feet, you only need to know how to do stockinette, basic increases and basic decreases, and mattress stitch for the seams. If you want feet that are a contrasting color, then you'll also need to know how to change to a new color. And as with all my patterns and videos, I'll tell you where to do these stitches, but I won't necessarily take the time to explain how to do them. Just a few more things before I get to the pattern. If my knitting looks strange to you, it's probably because I knit in what's known as combination style. But you don't have to knit like I do, just do the stitches in the way that's most comfortable for you. Please like and share my videos and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Look in the description area for lots of additional info and links to more videos like those that show how to knit the different body variations and how to assemble your animal once you've knitted all the pieces. When you're done, please share photos of your animal on my Facebook page. There's a link for that also in the description area. And finally, if you prefer to work from a written pattern, you can find links to the shops where I sell them in the description area. Here are some examples of the basic legs and arms with round feet. They're basically little tubes with a bulb at the end. You can choose to change color near the end if you want the feet to be in a contrasting color. I'll give you instructions for where to make the color changes as we go. I like to knit both arms or both legs at the same time. This is a great way of making sure that both legs are the same length in case I lose count of which row I'm on. It also helps me avoid getting bored of knitting the same thing 4 times. You can easily knit both legs at once by finding both ends of your skein of yarn. Use one end for one leg and the other end for the other leg. For simplicity's sake, however, I'll only be knitting one leg at a time in this particular video. Okay, let's get started. The legs start at the top, or what you might think of as the shoulder or hip. We'll be knitting down to the little bulb or foot. Start by casting on 14 stitches in the main color. This is typically the same color as the main body color. Leave a long enough tail to sew the leg seam with later. Purl across on row 1. And don't get thrown off by my style of knitting. Because I knit in combination style, it might look a little strange, especially on the purl rows. Knit across on row 2. At this point, you're just going to knit in stockinette, which means purling on the wrong side rows and knitting on the right side rows. You're going to do that until you get to row 18 if you're knitting the leg with the feet in a different color. If you want different colored feet, then change to the new color before knitting row 18 and continue knitting in this new color to the end. The pattern for some animals, like the fox, will instruct you to change the color at an even earlier row, but in general, row 18 is a good place to change. If you're not changing color, then just continue doing stockinette until row 20. Row 19 continues stockinette without any increases or decreases. Row 20 is an increase row. After a lot of attempts, I found that the feet look best with 2 increases for every 3 stitches. So the pattern here is knit 1, increase 1, and then knit 2 and increase 1. Continue this pattern of knitting 1, increasing 1, and then knitting 2 and increasing 1. Continue that pattern until you only have 1 stitch left. Knit that final stitch. When you're done with this row, you should have 23 stitches on your needle. By the way, you can do whatever increase you're most comfortable with, but my favorite way of increasing is often called make one. It's one of the most invisible increases, and you make it by working into the stitch on the previous row, just below the stitch on the right needle. Pull one leg of that V up onto the left needle, and then knit into that stitch. And that's one way of doing the make one stitch. On row 21, just purl across. Rows 22 through 24 continue in stockinette across these 23 stitches. So you'll knit row 22, purl across on row 23, and then knit across on row 24 again. Row 25 is a decrease row. The pattern here is purl 1 and then purl 2 together. You'll do that 7 times and then just purl the remaining 2 stitches. When you're done with row 25, you should have 16 stitches. Knit across on row 26. Row 27 is the last row. Purl the first stitch, then purl 2 together 7 times, and then purl the final stitch alone. You should have 9 stitches on your needle after row 27. Cut the yarn at this point, leaving enough of a tail to sew the side seam with. Thread this tail onto a tapestry needle, and then use that needle to thread the tail through the remaining 9 stitches on the knitting needle. I like to go through these stitches a second time just for added strength. Then use this same tail to sew the side seam back down to the cast-on edge. Remember to save the remaining yarn tails, both the tail that you just sewed the side seam with, as well as the tail that you left at the cast-on edge. Save these tails to use later for sewing the legs onto the body. And that's it. You're done with the basic leg with round feet. When you begin to assemble all the pieces, you'll stuff just the round end so that the leg hangs more naturally. That's it for this video. If you haven't already knitted the body, there are links for the different body options in the description area. There's also a video that gives my favorite tips and tricks for assembling your animal once you've finished knitting all the pieces. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel so you can get notified when I release new animal and clothing patterns. And share a photo of your completed project on my Facebook page. See you next time!